2023, what an amazing year, right? Well, I'd say not if you're a real estate professional or a home buyer in today's market. Seller is still pretty good, but I'm sitting here with Paul Johnson and Beth Haywood, our top agents on the team, and we're going to get the buyer perspective and listing perspective of what happened and then what we expect for this coming year. So, Beth, let's talk a little bit from the buy side. So, what did you see, in 2023?
It was really hard for the first-time home buyers. The rates got up into the 8s, which really impacted what they could afford. So we really had to sit down and dive into their list of needs and wants and do a lot of adjusting in order to get them into the right home.
Okay.
Many of them did do that and agreed to do that with the long-term goals of, okay, this is my first property. I'm gonna just stay there. I'm gonna make some improvements, and down the road, I'll buy something and keep that as an investment property.
Gotcha. Okay, good. One of the things, so I'd say people think with 8% interest rates, then there wasn't multiple offers, right? And it's like, because the inventory is so low and a nice home would come on the market that's priced appropriately. What were you seeing then, and what kind of advice did you have to give your clients there?
There were still multiple offers on some of those homes, even your lower priced homes. So some buyers, they just couldn't compete with the multiple offers. But if they could put a little bit more down, if we could guarantee the sales price, then we were golden.
Okay, good. Paul, seller side a little bit more fun and then not so fun. So what was your perspective of 23 from the listing side of the business?
We saw a lot of changes in the why people were selling. So typically it was 21, 22. You had people either buying or selling in either case for a wider range of reasons than what we saw this year. So you had more commonly death, divorce. I saw combining families, or a combination of relocation in some instances. People were moving out of state on the selling side, or it could be on the buying side, gravitational pull of the grandbabies, people leaving the state, coming back in type thing. But you saw just as many buyers priced out as you were seeing sellers kind of locked out of the market, so to speak, with interest rates. So down about 40% year over year. Yeah,
when you're looking at their golden handcuff to that 3% or less interest rate, and they couldn't make sense to go to the 8%.
Right.
And then the prices, because a lot of people expected, 8% interest rates, the prices are going to fall.
Sure.
Well, we have really low inventory, so then that didn't happen either.
Right.
So it was more like when we paint the picture of why people moved, and it was all based on needs,
right,
not wants, right? It was just a need, and that's why I kept saying to everybody, this is a needs-based market more than ever. You think of their want list, it's the want list is great, but if you need somewhere to live, it's not all about your wants, it's more of what your needs and then what's causing you to move. Amazing what grandkids will do, they'll make you move. When you're outgrowing a house, like you said, deaths, divorce, and those type things. Diamonds, which are the engagement side. The engagement side, a lot of them are having to rent, because affordability used to be, especially in Maryland, that you could buy something and be way cheaper than it would rent for. Now you're getting more of it's equal, so it had to make more sense. They'd get more tax benefits and so forth. So that was the recap. Anything else on 23 that you want to, or just thank goodness it's almost over?
Just want to leave it in the past.
I think the reason we didn't see as much price adjustments is just because the years prior we didn't really have a price bubble. We had more of, if anything, a terms and conditions bubble. You had people kind of waiving certain things that customarily we didn't see. So I think that probably went away first before seeing any kind of price adjustments. So we're a little bit kind of buffered, for lack of a better phrase, with the market, with where rates have, where we lost purchasing power, we didn't necessarily see any depreciation year over year.
The one little thing on the sell side is you've seen the seller still had a lot of power, they just didn't have all the power, right? Because before the sellers were really controlling the market, no, you can't do a home inspection, no, I'm not doing anything, no, I'm not emptying the house out, you got to empty it, and I need to stay here for 3 months for free. And then that totally changed to, yes, you're getting a home, the buyers are getting a home inspection, yes, there's going to be some repairs, hey, are they giving some concessions? So depending on the house.
Yeah, and
You know,
location.
and location, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say price point, location, you know, how well it was maintained, because we've seen so many people just pop their house on the market. And I was like, you still are in a pricing war and a beauty contest, no matter what the market. Like, hey, you can do nothing and put it on and you can get this. You can do a little bit extra, make sure that it's clean, declutter, depersonalize, neutralize, make sure the house is staged, but not HGTV stage, right? And we just want to make sure that it looks good. And then all of a sudden your level of money that you have goes to here with slightly like a small investment.
Yeah.
And I see that, like there's a house in my neighborhood and my sellers that prepped got over list price, and then I see the ones that didn't prep with another agent, now they were priced here lower, and now they've had a price reduction.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, you need to take, you know, we're professionals in the business, make sure that you're taking that consultation. It's like going to the doctors and saying, hey, what's wrong with me? Nah, you're wrong, I'm not going to do any of that.
Yeah.
Like, you need to listen to them. I mean, if you're going to have the philosophy of not listening, then it doesn't make, we're not any value, right?
For
But
sure.
if somebody hires and they want great value, that's what we're here to give really good input, and that's some of the things that we wanted to say. So, all right, on to 24. So, what do you think of where we're heading in 24? I mean, we've already had a little bit of good signs here at the end of the year, which is a really good sign. So, which is?
I believe 2024 is going to be great. I think that the rates are going to continue to trend down. I think they'll plateau in the 5s. And I think that's going to just create more opportunity for sellers and buyers. I mean, just Harford County alone, last week we were at, 330, I think, total listings on the market. And this morning we're at 294.
Yeah.
So that
Yesterday's
tells me,
299.
yeah, that tells me that, you know, homeowners are selling and consumers are buying, and that's going to continue into 2024.
And that's a good sign.
100%.
6.62.
Sixes, yep.
Yeah, probably 4 weeks ago was 8.
And now if you can get a 2-1 buy down, you're in the 4s your first year. That's pretty amazing.
One other thing, I have really good friends, one set of neighbors, their kids were buying out of state in Jersey area. And I talked to them over the summertime, and they had said, hey, when do you think the best time to buy? And I'm like, November, December. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah, because a lot of people aren't buying that time of the year. They're consumed with the holidays. Inventory's still there. It's not as much inventory, so you're going to be a little bit picky on what you can get. And but you know, I was like, don't get frustrated. They're going to get frustrated through the year. They start now, but by November, December, they're going to get something. And they put, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 offers in, because Jersey's still really busy when you're getting around, like just outside of New York, where they got to, you know, ferry over and so forth to get down to like financial districts and so forth. But she messaged me a week ago and said, you're right. They just got a house under contract. The home inspection's Monday, or they're so excited. It's a great deal, and blah, 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 and they didn't get beat out. And I was like, okay, good. That's like nice to, like, when you start telling them what's going to happen and when it's going to happen, and then it happens, like, all right, been in it for 18 years, kind of understand. I bought enough of my own homes too that I know where the market's going. So it's just, you know, giving that good consultation. So, interest rates, inventory, what's your prediction? What do you think inventory is going to be? Do you think you're going to be higher or lower? What do you think? So
I think as the rates come down, I think that we're going to see an increase in inventory, because going from, you know, so like, I think they said that under 30% nationwide are under 3% interest rate. So the majority of homeowners refied it in between 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's a much better, easier pill to swallow
When you go
going
into
into the
5s and 6s.
5s. You know,
Yeah.
and I think we're going to see, when that happens, I think we're going to see a combination of needing to sell, like what we saw in 2023, and wanting to, based upon the rates.
Yeah, because there hasn't been any wanting to sell or wanting to buy,
100%.
unless they had multiple. Like, I've seen some investors that own, like, they've owned properties for 20 or 30 years, and they're like, and sometimes less. Maybe they've owned it for 5 years and it's doubled or tripled in value, depending on what kind of deal they got. And they're like, hey, I'm just offloading, and then I'm gonna wait to see what happens and if the market settles down. But then, like, with low inventory, the market's not settling down. So then it goes into prices. What do you think prices are going to happen this year?
I think we're gonna see that they're gonna plateau. I think they're gonna start to increase come March, April timeframe, and I think they're gonna continue to increase into the summer.
Yeah.
And then plateau again in the fall and the winter.
Because of COVID threw us out of our normal real estate cycles, and now we're getting back to more of a normal real estate cycle where January, February, March, April, May, June, and then it starts July, August. Summertime goes down a little bit. Kids go back to school. Then it starts to pick up September, October, November, and then it starts decreasing again because of just that's usually the real estate cycles. So we're getting more back to a normal real estate market where we hadn't had that for 3 years. So it's kind of interesting of where that's going. Prices steadying into an incline because, again, with lower interest rates, inventory, it's not going to go wild, but you're going to get more inventory. We're still at like 70% of a 5-year average, and keep in mind of the 5-year average, 3 of those years were crazy, 2.5. So now we're getting back to inventories. Like, when I look back in time, like a 2010 real estate market, we had almost 8 times more inventory, 8 times. So 300 homes to 2,400 homes, huge difference.
Yeah.
So, and maybe it's 7, it's maybe 2,100 or something, but it was still way, just crazy market versus, it was such a buyer market versus, where we're at now, it's such a seller market. And I think you're going to still have more of that. So on the buy side, and then people have been waiting because they wait for spring market, and then they're like, oh, well, March to May, interest rates drop. You can refinance if you buy now. So, right. People don't think about it as like, hey, well, it's a cost. Well, if you buy at a lesser price and it costs you a little versus you pay at a much higher price, and then you don't have to refinance, you're still smarter here. But a lot of people wait till the spring market, and then you're going to be competing with 3 to 5 to 10. We're seeing 30 offers on property sometimes, and you just had a couple this this past week where you're still getting 3 to 5 offers on stuff.
Yeah, and I think if you're a smart buyer, you're really looking hard right now. Because if rates do go down, then you're going to be in a lot more competitive pool. Once it's already happened, you're already in even more competitive scenarios than we've got now.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're probably looking for price, a couple percentage points, but I think more immediately and more impactfully, we're going to see like terms and conditions kind of swing back in that direction of higher, more competition. On these multiple offers, we're seeing people waiving inspections in some instances, pretty strong financing. It really is just going to come down to how clean does that offer look, and you really can't control that as a buyer if you're going up against a cash offer. Once the market gets a little bit quicker overall. So. I see that ahead for next year for sure.
Yeah, and when you looked at like what our normal market was like 7 to 9% was cash offers.
Mm-hmm.
Now in this past couple years, 20% have been cash. So you look at that, you're like, holy crap.
I've had more cash buyers the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, but did you have a lot that were like the parents were helping the kids? Some of them lent like that. Sometimes they pulled money from 401k to be able to pay cash, or pull money from investments because they're worried about the stock market. All right, stock market's really high. Do I get out now? Because nobody knows. Nobody can really time it. I mean, we're all predicting of what's going to happen, right? We don't have a crystal ball to say, hey, this 100% is what's going to happen, until we look back and go, oh yeah, that was it. Like May of 2005, the real estate market crashed. We didn't feel it until 2007, 2008. So, and then it was 9, 10, 11, 12 was really bad. So we didn't have any of that. I mean, thankfully, like homeowners, the number one question is, what's a home worth? So their values have still been inclining. But if we looked at other parts of different states, Florida, like double, triple. Here we've been like 30 to 40% overall of what it was worth to where it's at now. Great, but it's not 110% or sometimes 200%. So when you look at that, I mean, that's where I think ours will continue to stay, like, because this is local real estate we're talking about. We're not talking about national weather. We're talking about local, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's why I wanted to make sure when people are watching this, hey, what does this mean? What does this look like for next year? So I think next year, what's your prediction on pricing and inventory and all that? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, inventory is kind of it depends on what you mean by inventory, but I think we've been like you mentioned.
Well, do you think we're going to still have low inventory, really?
Yeah. I think anything that gets freed up from sellers that have been on the sidelines, you've got just as many buyers that are on the sidelines as well. So if people get kind of freed up from being able to sell, or it being worthwhile for them to sell, or their current need with lower rates makes it economically viable to sell, I think you have just as many buyers that have been sitting on the sidelines as well, that just haven't they still are actively looking. So I think to make it actionable on the seller side, if you're decluttering, depersonalizing the home, making the home nice and neutral, you're going to see so much more return than the people that don't. Because I think it's pretty hot cold. It's hot cold for locations, hot cold for people that did the heavy lifting on the front end to get the home ready for sale. You've got so many people that have just been waiting for that house to pop up. You want to give them every reason for that home to be yours as a seller. But yeah, price wise, I think we're probably 3 to 5% appreciation potentially. But I do think we're going to be looking this time next year as overall having a lot more competitive terms on offers that we're seeing, more multiple offers, buyers that have been sitting on the sidelines, are jumping into the water. So get ahead of that. Would be my suggestion. And on the seller side, suggestion is make your home show like a model. So that more people can see themselves in it, and you'll be very happy with the result if you've got the right agent.
I always tell it, like, contact us as early as possible so we can, consultation, education is everything. The more we can educate you, you do have to listen to like what our suggestions are. But when we meet with you, it's going through, hey, this is where I think if you don't do nothing to the house versus, hey, if you do some things to the house, you're going to spend a little bit and you're going to spend some time, but you're going to get significantly more. You're going to get more multiple offers, which is going to give you better terms to what you want as a seller, and just give you more control. But you do have to put a little bit of work into it. But there's some people that just say, hey, I just want less and I want to do less. That's fine too. There's investors that'll come in and buy stuff. I mean, we have plenty of investors too. But I just think, my prediction is, I think inventory is going to stay low, not as maybe a little bit more than last year, because people are going to get a little bit of a release of the golden handcuffs of the ones that want to buy. Hey, now I'm going from 3 to 5.5 or 6%. I can make that manageable, or from 4 to 6%. It's not as big a deal. And I see that prices are still continuing to climb. I want to get ahead of this before it's too late. I think prices are still going in the upward trajectory because inventory is so low. And we have not had, like Florida, California, Arizona, Vegas, like people, Austin, Texas, they had huge inclines of 60, 80, 100% or more, and then had a little bit of a drop. We didn't have any of the drops. Ours has been like steady 20, 30, 40%. And it's still, we're like, government based because of DC. We're close to DC, a lot of government jobs and all that. So I think that our prices are going to continue to climb. It's not going up 15, 20%, but we're going to stay steady at maybe somewhere around 5%. It could be 8. So I think that that's going to be a good thing. I think interest rates are coming down. It's an election year, right? So I think March to May, you're going to see some, rates continuing to drop. It's nice to see 6.62 today. A couple weeks ago was 7 and 8. We'll continue to see that, and as we get closer to election time, I think it's going to continue to drop. So if you buy something and you're paying a little bit more interest rate, just watch through the year, because you may be able to get 2-point swing or 3-point swing all of a sudden, and you're like, holy shit, now I'm able to get significant amount less. And hey, did I have to pay some interest now? Yes, but as the house is going up in value, more than covers it.
Right.
So any final thoughts? Anything that we didn't cover?
I think what we're not saying is pretty important, which is none of us, we're all in the business, so we might be a little biased in our perspective, but we're not saying that we feel like prices are going to go down anytime soon.
Right.
Really just don't see any reality. There could be some, but don't think it's very probable we're going to see anything other than, staying where we are price-wise and potentially chipping our way up. I think it's got to be a pretty big reversal over a long period of time for inventory to outmatch the buyers that have been sitting, and there's shadow inventory on the selling side, but just as much shadow buyers out there. Correct. Waiting for that inventory
Even
to
more.
Get freed up. So
buyers are tired of renting too, or
right.
Renters are tired of dealing with the BS from their landlords and continuing to pay more and more and more, and
right.
to keep getting increases. One of the things that we didn't talk about was some foreclosures. There's going to be some foreclosures, yes. It's not significant, but like there was some guidelines that are headlines that if it leads, it bleeds. And there was like, hey, a 2,000% increase in foreclosures. Yeah, when they're 0.000 nothing, and you go to 0.01, it goes up a little bit. But there's still not going to be enough. There's going to be some deals out there, but you're going to put a lot of work in it. And the other thing is now, since COVID, look at the cost of the goods. Look at the cost to repair. And all of a sudden you think you're going to do a lot. Unless you're handy. If you're handy and you save yourself a lot of money, fantastic. But otherwise, you're going to put a huge investment into that. Because I'm looking at remodels that we're doing, and I'm like, I had one that I had in 2019. I had an estimate done, and it was $100,000 in remodel. We waited till the following year to do it because we had other projects, and that 100 became 140,000.
Right.
And now it's even like you're seeing an increase. Where the ability or availability of goods is a little bit greater than it was, but the costs are so high. Anything else?
Correct. Yeah, and I think something too, and I've had this conversation with consumers and potential sellers and buyers, is the reason for the increase in foreclosures right now is because everything stopped during the shutdown. Those processes that were started or just beginning stopped, and now they're back. But like you said, the cost to rehab and renovate those foreclosures are going to be more expensive, and it's not for everybody.
Exactly. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of aggravation, and they dig in. They start uncovering things, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know I was going to have to do that." Oh, and then all of a sudden your estimate's up, which you don't know until you're already way into the project, and now you're spending more money, and now like, holy shit, I didn't know. That was a great deal. It is not a great deal anymore.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, stop watching HGTV.
Yes. Yeah, because when you see some of the estimates on there, I'm like, that doesn't include the labor, or like it's very subsidized labor and so forth. So, all right. Well, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe below, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one.